Well, guided meditation. Meditation is, my teachers say that the three branches of Buddhism, and when we do this properly, it's special, I'll master the names of the three branches, that they're all moving, we're moving towards the same spot. The goal is to stop the chatter of the cerebral mind, the chatter of the mind. Teresa's new guru says that all our thoughts, and the book and Miracle says all our thoughts are meaningless. All our thoughts, back to the truism, the cliche about the map is not the terrain, and the thoughts are not what are not what they're representing. They're just ways of approximating stuff that's going on. And if we can stop the mind, if we can stop the conscious, these thoughts, we can experience reality directly. And that this direct experience of reality without the filters of the mind is a transcendent experience, is a blissful experience. And that the three schools of Buddhism, the Tibetans develop complex systems where you do complex mantras and visualizing yantras, and you fill yourself up with this complexity till the mind stops. The Zen Buddhists, the Eastern, the Chan school, contemplate koans, they contemplate the incontemplatable, the incomprehensible, and you contemplate the hand of the one hand clapping, or this room that I feel I'm in with no windows and no doors, and how did I get here and how do I get out? You contemplate the incomprehensible, the ineffable, until the mind stops, until you boggle the mind and it stops. Or in Vipassana, in the school from Burma and Siam, you try to focus on a simple object, the breath. And in Vipassana, the breath of the belly rather than the breath in the nostrils, because it's more grounding, because it's more here. And you focus on that until your mind eventually achieves that focus, that one-pointedness. And in that, the chattering mind stops. So then there are other in Hinduism, they talk about four yogas. There's the karma yoga, working through good deeds. There's the bhakti yoga, the yoga of devotion. The jhana yoga, the yoga of the intellect. The Buddhists say of the mind that the nature of the mind is clarity and the function of the mind is knowing. And Jim will hit the gong or the Chinese bowl, twang, and when you hear the click, you hear it and you know it. It's a knowing, it's a direct knowing. And the fall for the Buddhist is clinging to what's pleasant, grasping and clinging to what's pleasant, which takes us out of the reality, or pushing away aversion, pushing away that's unpleasant, which again pushes us out of reality. They're not doing things that is not quite simple, because we carry the scars of our traumas, big and small. And in so many of of us. They're driving our behavior. And we cannot release or relieve or heal these scars simply through good intention, simply through wishing they weren't there, because they are there and they need to be healed. But that's another story. So the importance of happiness, Robert Louis Stevenson has this wonderful aphorism. I don't know if I can quote it directly. It's other aphorisms on the website, that there's no duty more neglected and more worthy than the duty to be happy, because out of happiness comes untold happiness, untold goodness. That when we're happy, when we say something nice to people, we create happiness, and when we moan, we create misery. And so by being happy, we create happiness. But just saying, be happy. I recall how irritating I found that back in the 60s. Little Sue saying, just be happy. And it's not that I want to be miserable, though we are attached. We do become attached to our misery. A poem for Rosamunda. If we didn't hold on to our pain, we'd be like angels. We'd fly away. But I've cherished the dross, clung to my sadness, so not to betray the sulky boy who won't forgive the petty things, the lack love, and the little disappointments. I'm a snake consuming myself. Where the fox gnaws its leg to escape the trap, I've scratched my wounds to remain in a finite regression. The landscape recedes a Mobius strip through oblivion's womb, and if I wasn't so stuck up my own ass, I'd be an angel, I'd fly away. One of the special things that Buddhism has for us, along with Christianity, is the metta practice. My teacher Phil says that doing the Vipassana practice, the concentration practice, samadhi and the mindfulness practice, Vipassana, are dry. And without the compassion, without the metta practice of compassion, loving kindness, sympathetic care, and equanimity, there's no juice. And the metta practice, may I be happy, may I be free from suffering. I rejoice in my happiness, good fortune, good qualities and achievements. May I be equanimous and rejoice in the happiness of all sentient beings, of all my relations. That this formula is very useful when the world is irksome, to wish happiness to those who pull us from our center, who irritate us, who anger us. It's like counting to 10 before exploding, but a little bit more effective.